Hey, this is Corey from Wolfpack Woodcraft, and today's book of the week is Bushcraft 101, a field guide to the art of wilderness survival. Now, this is a great book. This is probably one of the most recommended books on the market. If you haven't read it, you've probably at least heard of it, and there is a lot of great information inside this book. So let's talk about it. Time spent. Was it worth the time spent reading? Yes, very much so. Some of the issues in this book is it is a 101 book. It is bare bone basic. And so when they're talking about how to handle a knife, how to handle an axe, it's all things that some of us have heard a million times. But, you know, it's nice to get that refresher. It's nice to get that reminder. But it is things that you've heard a lot, okay? But then on the other side of that, there is a ton of stuff in here. There's a ton of knowledge, ton of little tips and tricks and strategies that can really help advance your outdoor experience and make you a lot more comfortable in the woods. And so, yes, even though there is some stuff that gets samey because everybody has said it, everybody's recommended. I have videos talking about stuff in this book, and you've probably watched that video. The little hidden gems in here are still worth the read. Is it easy to read? Is it easy to pick up and get into? Very much so. One of my favorite things about this book, I'm not a big reader. I don't like sitting down and reading for hours at a time. I've never been big into reading. And what this book does is there's chapters, of course, but there's also little breaks. And so here you have skillets, meat rotisserie, planks, tools for food handling. So this talks about cooking over open fire too. Cooking irons. So there's all these little things. Batoning, notching. There's a whole bunch of breaks. Shear cuts. There's so many little breaks inside this book. And so I can easily pick it up, read a little blurb, right, on that little section, and then put it down, go do something else, come back, read another little blurb, maybe a couple little blurbs, depending on how big they are. And so there's a lot of breaks inside this book that are built into the book, right? And so I can easily read one, set it down, come back, pick it up, read another one. I'm not reading chapters at a time. I'm not reading large portions of the book, expending a lot of time in reading. I can just do one at a time, and that's one of the reasons I have read this one cover to cover, is because it is so easy to just read those little blurbs. What I learned worth the time spent? Yes. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here that gets samey because you've heard it 1,000 times, but this is a 101 book. This is a bare bones basic, get you started, get you introduced. You know, this is something that will get you into that, from being in the city, never being in the woods, to being out and having some things that you can try, some things that you can watch out for. And so it does get a little bit samey, but again, it's nice having those refreshers. It's nice to remember the basics. You know, we get into these advanced techniques and these advanced things, and we see what works for us, but it's nice to be able to get those little reminders of how you're supposed to handle a knife, how you're supposed to use a saw, you know what I mean? And then also the little hidden gems and the techniques and things that we don't use all of the time, to get a reminder on how to do some of those things. It's definitely a good book. Definitely learned a lot in this book. Happy to have in the collection. Yes, this is a book that I plan on keeping in my collection forever. I don't ever want to lose this. I'm never going to get rid of it. I'm never going to trade it or borrow it out to anybody. This stays at my house. And the reason for that is because of the basics, right? Anytime I'm going to be trying something that I haven't done in a really long time, it's nice to pick this up and kind of get a little refresher on it. You know, I haven't made natural shelter in a while. Let me look in here and see some of the tips and tricks to make sure that I still remember exactly what it is that I need to do and what I need to accomplish, or the natural shelters, or different fire lays. You know, you get into you use the same TP fire lay or log cabin fire lay, one of the two, for so long. It's nice to just be able to pick this up and be like, you know what, I'm going to try something different to see how that differs from the two that I always use. You know what I mean? So this will always be in the collection. Aesthetics. This is a beautiful book. I really enjoy all the pictures. There's tons of pictures. There's tons of diagrams. It's really nice being able to read a little section and see a little picture illustration showing exactly what it is that they're talking about. And so this book right here is going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend it. I don't know if I know anybody that hasn't enjoyed reading it. And so because of that, this is my favorite book. It's one of my absolute favorite books. And like I said, I'm always going to keep it. I'm always going to have it. Next week, we're going to talk about Advanced Bushcraft, which is the second book in this series, which I'm not as big of a fan of. But make sure to subscribe, hit that little bell, and I will see you next week to talk about a new book.